Welcome to Got Grass, conversations with the legends and leaders of bluegrass. You've enjoyed live bluegrass at Guitar Town CT concerts in Hamden, Connecticut since 2008. From Tony Rice, Rouse Stanley, and Doyle Lawson to Tim O'Brien, Sierra Hull, and Billy Strings. Now you can go behind the scenes as we chat with your favorite bluegrass stars. I'm your podcast host, Chris Worth. So my guest today on Got Grass is David Benedict. Welcome, David.
Thanks, Chris. I'm so excited to be here, man. It's exciting to get to catch up. It's been ages.
It's been a long while since you played down here. I know that. Or up here, I guess, for you would be up here.
Right.
So this is actually my 75th episode of Got Grass. So I have a little milestone with you on it. And I do appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy guy, and it's fun to chat.
My pleasure.
I always start with a non-music question, and I think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. So when there's no music in your life in a day off, where are we liable to find you? And I'm going to you want me to guess? You bought a house, right?
Yeah.
So you're probably working on your house. That's my guess.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say Harbor Freight, man. You'll find me there. Yeah, we're actually in the middle of a big project. It's kind of music related, but we're building a little recording studio in our backyard, and I'm trying to figure out how to frame it on my own, which is maybe a dumb idea, but I've done a little bit in the past, and I've just been watching so many YouTube videos and spending a lot of time at Harbor Freight getting tools and supplies.
I'm sure you can do it. I mean, there is a lot of stuff on YouTube. Most of it's pretty good. If you have any questions, I spent my whole life building and restoring, so if you have any specific questions, you can always email
Oh
me.
my goodness. Yes, actually, I've got a list, man. Maybe after this podcast, that would be amazing.
Yeah. So did you grow up with music in your household all the time, like a lot of musicians did, parents and siblings playing all the time, listening? And
Not a whole lot. You know, my dad is a musician. He plays drums, and he played like in a jazz band growing up. Or when I was growing up, he played in a jazz band, I should say, just a local group. And, you know, I go hear him at the local sushi bar every once in a while, which was really inspiring. But he didn't get a drum kit until I was maybe like 12 or 13. And I didn't have much music exposure before then. I think it was around that time my dad brought home that first Nickel Creek album, just the self-titled one. That was the first time I'd heard, anything bluegrass adjacent, and first time I'd heard a mandolin. And just kind of piqued my interest because at the time, like me and my sister were starting to think about playing some instruments. And so we both got guitars first, and it didn't really stick with either of us, to be honest. And then a couple of years later, my dad just picked up a real cheap mandolin at a music store and surprised me one day, and I started playing then. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't really get serious about it till later on in high school, even playing in like a local Irish band and with some folks at my church and some local singer-songwriters. So kind of a late bloomer. I still feel that way in a lot of ways.
yeah, you're still blooming.
Well, I'm still late.
You're still a late bloomer. So you're in South Carolina, right? That's where you're from, and that's where you live now?
Yeah, I grew up in a town called Clemson. What you might know the university. They got the big college football program.
Yeah.
My parents are still there, but we live now. Me and my wife Tabitha and our family. We live about an hour north near Greenville, South Carolina, in a place called Travelers Rest, and we love it because it's like right at the foothills of the mountains. Where Greenville is like 20 minutes away. There's a nice little airport there, and the town's great. And then just an hour north, you have Asheville and places like Hendersonville, Black Mountain. Tons of great musicians around that area too.
Yeah, those are on my bucket list to visit. I haven't been there yet.
Man, let us know.
I got to get down there. I got to get down there. So, do you ever remember making a decision at one point in your life to be a professional musician, or you just kind of ease into it?
Yeah, funny enough, I do. I think I was 17 years old at the time, and my folks wanted me to go to college. I'm thankful they set that expectation for me, but I was thinking about what I would like to do, and I'd just gotten really serious about playing music, and I just discovered how to play scales. Like, it took me that long. Like, I wasn't really that theory oriented as a player until later on. And so 17 years old, I was figuring out how to play the D major scale, and I was like, man, I love playing the D major scale. I could see myself doing this for the rest of my life. And here I am now. So it was that kind of moment when I made that plunge. And I wasn't intentional, it just kind of like happened by inspiration. It took my parents a long time to come around to that idea, but eventually they were, really, really supportive. They've been amazing supports throughout my life. But yeah, they're like, maybe you should major in business and then do music on the side, or do a music minor or do a dual major. And then once I got to school and started, diving into music education and music performance, I just really wanted to go all in. So I have a bachelor's of science in mandolin music performance, or as I like to say, a BS degree, because no one else really has a degree like that. It's kind of made up. But yeah, that was my realization, just playing that D major scale.
Yeah. It's funny because a lot of the people I've talked to, especially older musicians on this podcast, grew up in family bands. So by the time they were 6, they were playing with the band, whatever it might, just tambourine, like Rhonda Vincent. I was playing the tambourine at age 5 and with my family band. And so for them, a lot of them, was just a natural thing. You were going to go into music as your family did, and there was never like a decision. You just were always a musician from the time you were a toddler.
Mm-hmm.
And then other ones, I was just talking to Brittany Haas on the thing. She said, "Well, I went to Princeton and I had to study all this stuff, science stuff, because I wasn't really sure, you know."
Wow.
I have a whatever grade degree in some scientific thing she has, but so I guess everyone has a different path
Totally, man.
to music. But it's
Yeah.
interesting how people talk about
I'm
it.
kind of jealous, honestly, those folks who just grew up playing from, the age of 2 or 3. I just didn't know about it, honestly, until a
Mm.
lot later on. And yeah, it wasn't part of our family structure. So it was something I had to figure out. I was actually talking with someone recently about like how the first bluegrass festival I went to, I was 19 years old, and I went to Merle Fest for the first time. And that changed my life. I wish I'd gone sooner, because being around other musicians, being around other people who are into it, is just the best way to get, sucked in to get better, because you're just immersing yourself. It's like learning a language, I guess. But yeah, I wish I had gotten started sooner, but yeah, we all have different paths, like you said.
Yeah. So I recall that you, I guess, were dating Tabitha at one point, maybe during COVID. I don't know. It seems like you had this crazy relationship thing, right? Didn't you?
Yeah.
Like you couldn't
Oh
see each
man.
other or something, or
Oh, it's so complicated. Man, I'll give you like the hit points if I can. I'll see. So we got married in 2019. Got married over in Northern Ireland, and thankfully there were no hiccups with international travel with my family and friends from over here. It was so fun. Like all of Mile 12 went over, the band I was playing in at the time, and like my roommates, Tony Watt, Laura Orshaw, my family, all like amazing folks just came out, and we had a blast. But then, yeah, we got married over there because we needed to apply long distance for Tabitha's green card to live here in the States. That was the plan. But Tabitha was playing with her brothers in the band Cup of Joe over in Northern Ireland, and then another great band, Midnight Sky Racer, over in England. It's all female bluegrass band. They're amazing. And we'd both, in both of our bands, we'd committed to dates like a couple of years out in advance. That's just the way it works. So our hands were kind of tied. And the only way for us to be able to do that was to basically apply long distance for the green card and live in separate countries after we got married for a little while. So I was basically in the States. I'd moved out of my apartment in Boston and was a professional rounder for a while. I was just like commuting to Northern Ireland in between gigs here in the States to go see Tabitha, even though we were married at the time. And then, yeah, 2020 comes around. It was like, I think it was February or early March. I was in Northern Ireland at the time, spending time with Tabitha, but I was getting ready to fly back to New York to play some dates with Mile 12. I remember turning on the TV, hearing something about a coronavirus and cruise ships and things like that, and didn't think anything of it. But then, like, landed at JFK, turned on my phone, realized, like, state of emergency had been declared. All the gigs I was supposed to play were canceled, and they're getting ready to close the borders back to Ireland. So I was like, oh my goodness, if I don't go back as soon as possible, I will not be able to see Tabitha for who knows how long. And so basically I just spent like, 18 hours in a smoky hotel room in Queens, and then got on the next available flight back to Dublin. So I flew across the Atlantic twice in a little over 24 hours, which is terrible. And I don't wish that on anyone because it was not fun. But thankfully we were able to be over there together for like about 6 months while we were kind of isolating in place and waiting for Tabitha's green card to finally come. But yeah, long story, but that's kind of how it worked. And then, yeah, we moved here to the States kind of at the end of 2020 together, which is where we are now.
Yeah. I should look at my list of concerts here because you played here, I think 2017, 18, and then February of 2020 you played here. That must have been
Yeah, that was it.
just before COVID.
I remember that. It was when I was didn't have a permanent address. I think I was flying back to my parents' house in South Carolina after that, and then afterwards was flying to Northern Ireland. Oh man, I don't miss that travel at all. This is a much less stressful time in my life, even though I'm trying to figure out how to frame a studio. So,
Yeah, right. So you have a duo with her called the Foreignlanders. What's that like I've heard it, but what's the premise of that duo? Is it all original stuff you're trying to write and play
yeah,
together?
it's a mix. Like we just put out a record in January this year, which we're really stoked about. It's called Made to Wonder, and it's kind of the second full length album that we've done. And it's a mix of mostly originals. There's like 8 original songs and 2 covers. One from like traditional Irish music, a song called "I'm a Youth Inclined to Ramble," and then one from this side of the Atlantic from Ola Belle Reed, a song called "Where the Wildflowers Grow." But yeah, it's been mostly a creative outlet for us to be able to work on new music and to kind of scratch that itch of playing transatlantic styles. Where Tabitha, it's funny, Tabitha grew up in Northern Ireland with her brothers playing bluegrass, thinking that was totally normal, even though like no one else around her was doing that. I think she was the only 13-year-old girl playing like 5-string banjo in Northern Ireland at the time, maybe still is. But and I was here in the States, like I mentioned, I was playing with a local Irish band growing up. It's kind of funny that we had that reversal of roles. And then, I, love bluegrass too, came around on that. And Tabitha's done a lot of time exploring traditional Irish music too, just being immersed in it over there. So we both love both of those styles. And this project has been an outlet for trying to find common ground between the styles. Like still don't feel like a proficient bluegrass player, even though I've played in bluegrass bands. Just because I didn't grow up around it like other people did, I'm still learning so much about that style, and same about Irish music too. And I'd say Tabitha would probably say similar things. So it's not like we're trying to be like, the most traditionally correct or in the most historically proficient on these styles, but just using those influences and those inspirations to try to create some new sounds. It's been a lot of fun too. Like it's something I've always wanted to do since I grew up playing Irish music. And yeah, it's been great, man. This last record, we had a lot of great special guests on the project, like Nick Cook, he's the accordion player from the Kate Resby band. We had Chris Drever, the lead singer from that band Lau over in Scotland. We had Tristan Claridge from Crooked Still back in the day.
Yep.
And then also we had Julian Pinelli, an amazing fiddle player. He's playing on the whole record with us. And Nate Sabat from Mile 12 is playing bass too. And they've been touring with us some as well as a kind of a quartet lineup for the band, which has been a lot of fun having that full sound again too.
Nice. Yeah. I'm not that familiar with Irish music. I didn't grow up with bluegrass either, but I mean, I was turned on to bluegrass through Tony Rice, basically. So I came at it from a kind of a different perspective too. I didn't really know about Bill Monroe until like a few years ago, honestly. I mean, I knew who he was, but I didn't know that much about. I was going to talk about that later. I want to talk about that now because you were talking to Lauren Price Napier about the Bill Monroe
Oh yeah.
mandolin style. I just happened to watch that. Oh my God, that was like a whole world opening up just in that conversation with her. It was so eye-opening just to see all his stuff kind of described and played slowly. How because I love his mandolin playing now. I didn't know much about it then. So you seem kind of like amazed by it too, like by her take on it stuff. I don't know.
Yeah.
She was
Oh
great.
my
Yeah.
goodness, that was such a fun video to make, and I felt the same way that you said you felt. Just my eyes were open to so many cool nuances about the Monroe style, because I like you didn't know about Bill Monroe when I first started playing, and really didn't come to even appreciate Bill Monroe like I should have until a lot later on. He's a strong flavor, and I've come to really love the sound that he gets on the mandolin. But Lauren is just like one of my favorite components of the modern Monroe style movement. And she does such a great job of explaining it too. That's why I love doing this YouTube channel, man. That's been kind of a big focus for me over the past 5 years, kind of since that time in Northern Ireland over COVID. That's when I started making videos. And it's just been an outlet for myself to get educated on mandolin styles from amazing players from around the world. So yeah, even like doing some Celtic stuff. I got to go over to Galway, Ireland last year and did an interview with Enda Scahill from the band We Banjo 3, who, Enda is like a fantastic tenor banjo player, but it's a really underrated mandolin player in Irish music as well. And did an interview with Marla Fibish as well too, an amazing American Irish mandolin player too. So I mean, it's been so fun. I feel like having that outlet has just connected me with so many amazing mandolin players, and I kind of get to share these private lessons that I've had with people. I'm the student in these videos for sure, just getting to talk with these incredible players and ask them questions that I've always wanted answers to, and then getting to share that with other people. It's just been a really rewarding process.
So how long have you been doing the YouTube stuff? Because you're very natural at it. I can see. I like the way you edit it. You cut, and so it's like a little sentence kind of thing, description. How did you get into that? It was you're just a natural at it, or did you go study broadcasting or something?
No, not at all. I'm still figuring it out for sure. I hate looking back at my old videos. Like even videos I've made in the past few months, I'll look back and be like, oh, what am I saying? Like, how I could do this so much better. Oh, this is so embarrassing. And that's just something I've had to get over with, and get over, I guess, just have to kind of get past that discomfort of being recorded and talking on camera. For me, it was definitely a learning experience. Like I started doing YouTube like over 10 years ago now. It's hard to believe. I wasn't that into it at the beginning. It was just kind of like a way of sharing stuff I was playing and working on. It kind of started out with this Mandolin Mondays series that I did for almost 10 years, I guess it was, for 500 consecutive weeks, posting weekly mandolin videos on Monday morning. And yeah, the Mandolin Cafe, my favorite website to this day, was so supportive. Scott Tishner, the site manager over there, was very supportive from the beginning, and reposted those videos to the front of the Mandolin Cafe page. And so my channel kind of garnered a little bit of a following from that, even though they're very casual posts. And after the first year of doing these weekly performance videos myself, I got kind of burnt out and started asking other people to send in videos. So like Joe K. Walsh was the first guest. He kind of came up with that idea to farm out the work to other players, and had some incredible players on the series, like Mike Marshall and Katarina Lichtenberg, Mike Compton, Sierra Hall, Tim O'Brien, Adam Steffi, Chris Thiele even sent in a video to be submitted, which I was like, that felt like I'd completed the hero's journey, just like getting an email from his manager to be like, here's a video. And I was like, oh. Yeah. So after 500 weeks, that series kind of felt like it ran its course, and I was getting a little bit, just tired of doing that every week, just because Sunday nights were sometimes a real stressful time. If someone hadn't sent in a video, sometimes I'd stay up to like 3 a.m. Sunday night, finishing a video myself to post. But that all that work kind of laid a foundation for what I do now on YouTube, which is trying to produce really high quality mandolin content, mostly from an educational standpoint, like teaching tunes, teaching techniques and concepts, fretboard mechanics, things like that, as well as doing interviews, kind of podcast style interviews with like Lauren Price and those other players that I mentioned. So I don't know, I like to keep it interesting and keep it different just for my own sake, but also to show the many sides of the mandolin to players out there. And I think it's very personal to me because, like I said, I didn't know hardly anyone playing growing up. No one in my family played mandolin. I didn't have any friends who played mandolin either. And it was just kind of a lone journey. So I wish there had been resources like these videos that I've been putting out recently back then when I was first learning, because I feel like I would have learned so much faster, gotten more inspired, and gotten hooked on the mandolin more thoroughly. So that's my goal. It's like when I'm making a video now, I'm kind of thinking about my 13, 14-year-old self when I was first starting out, be like, what would young David love to have seen and known back then? And just being able to share that kind of exuberance and that like joy of the instrument too, making it other people feel like it's okay to be nerdy about the mandolin. Because if you have a friend who loves to nerd out about this stuff, it kind of makes it okay for them to be able to nerd out about it too.
Yeah. So how do you make money I mean, I know all of your lessons are available on YouTube for free, or at least there's a whole series of them. I'm
Mhm.
not saying all of them, but there's a lot. I've looked at a lot of them because I'm playing mandolin now, so
Oh, cool,
I've
man. That's
I've
great.
checked them out. But so how do you? I know you have the Patreon thing. Is that's a moneymaker for you, right?
Yeah, that's I mean that's the my main revenue at the minute. But like you said, I try to make all the lessons. I think actually all of my lessons are free on YouTube. That's been my model as of when I started making these videos, is that I want all these resources to be available to people, and not be behind a paywall.
Mm.
Just because it's good for promotion, having like really high quality content out there that's engaging, and people are going to be watching and enjoying it more. But also just because I like I said, I wish there was stuff like that out there when I was learning, and didn't have any money as a cheap mandolin player back in the day. But the Patreon page is kind of like a way of supplementing that, where all the lessons I have for free on YouTube, I usually have like PDF handouts that go along with those lessons that are usually already provided on screen within the videos on YouTube. But if you want to be able to like print them out and have them for keeps, you can go over to Patreon and download those, as well as like backing tracks if you want to learn stuff by ear or be able to play along with the chords for the song we're learning. And I do other stuff on Patreon too, like some bonus transcriptions from my own recorded catalog, and some like video exchange lessons, kind of like they do on Artist Works and things like that. So yeah, I just kind of stumbled into it. I started that Patreon page in 2020 when we were over in Northern Ireland, kind of isolating in place, and I just thought it was going to be something to kind of tide me over until shows started happening again, because we were touring quite a lot with Mile 12 back then. But yeah, Patreon and YouTube just started taking off, and it felt like it was almost like a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I wanted to be able to devote myself to, trying to build this audience and build this platform, and hopefully, be able to reach more people with the mandolin. That is my main goal too. It's like, I would love for the mandolin to be more mainstream and for more people to get into this awesome instrument. And YouTube and online, like social media presence seems to be the way that society is moving, for better or for worse.
Yeah, I know. I know. Um, as I say, I started playing mandolin a little bit about a year ago because
Cool.
I've been teaching some classes in local school here, and two of the classes there was no mandolin player, or he was there and he dropped out. So I said, well, someone's got to play it. I'm gonna learn. So, and I love it. I mean, I find it in a sense more fun than guitar. I don't know if that's the right word. It's more pleasurable to play. It's small. You can just sit down and tuck along on it. Guitar is a little more of a challenge, and I don't know. I guess I was always trying to sound like Tony Rice, so I was never happy with my playing there. Um, so what does mandolin do for you? Like, I mean, you said you've always loved it. What is it about the mandolin that just does it for you?
Yeah, that's a really good question, man. I've probably not thought about it as much as I should have. But I kind of know what you mean. It just makes sense when you pick it up because of the way it's tuned, being tuned in perfect fifths. You just don't have to worry about, the pesky B string like you have on the
Well,
guitar.
that's a big part of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so logical under your finger,
Mhm.
especially your fiddle tune. The things just fall under your fingers. Whereas guitar, it's like, oh my God, where do I play on this string?
Yes.
It's
Uh-huh.
always screwing you up.
No, like the way that the tunes lay out is just so logical and makes sense mechanically as well as intuitionally. So it's like it feels very intuitive to play it. I that's definitely a part of it. I don't know, like part of it might be like my millennial hipster brain wanting to play something different than what other people are playing too. So being alone, maybe people thought would think that's kind of a disadvantage, growing up without other people who played the mandolin too. But in some ways, it was an advantage because it was very personal to me. It felt like it was my own instrument, and I got to explore it the way that I wanted to. And that's what's cool too about the mandolin. There's not much pedagogy out there for the instrument compared to stuff like even guitar, but even more so, like classical instruments like violin and all the orchestral instruments. There's not like one right way to play it, and that's what I really like too. Like if you look at all those players I mentioned for the Mandolin Mondays series, you compare like Mike Compton to Sierra Hull, they're going to have wildly different right hand approaches. They're going to sound way different, and their note choices, it's just night and day. But I love both of those players, and I want to emulate different parts of each of them to kind of create my own style. So it feels like more open ended and less constricting than some other instruments out there. Just my own personal opinion.
It's interesting because I was going to ask you. I mean, it seems like because of the small size and the kind of limited range, and that has, it has a mandolin sound. It doesn't ring. It's very rhythmic. And do you see that? You don't see that as a limiting factor in terms of what the mandolin can do compared to like fiddle, which is all over the place, or guitar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh sure. A lot of times I'm jealous of sustain or volume. Like volume for sure. Like when you get to a lot of bluegrass jams, even it's just a struggle to compete against the fiddle and the banjo.
Yeah.
But I feel like with every constraint comes a certain type of freedom too. Like if I had chosen to play guitar instead of mandolin, like I don't think I would have the ability to do what I do now, just because guitar is so, thoroughly explored already. There's so many amazing like guitar YouTube channels already established. There wouldn't be really the same vacuum in the market for what I do now. So I'm really thankful for that. And also just like the opportunities that I've gotten to play with other people. Like I don't consider myself like an excellent musician, but just because I can kind of like hack my way through some things on the mandolin, maybe better than some people, probably not many people, but because I can play this kind of very specialized instrument, it's offered me more opportunities to play with other people and to do things that I want to do, which I'm very thankful for. So yeah, it's like, I think there is freedom and limitations. It's weird like that. I think that's a principle in life, not just music, but especially music too. Like I've heard Brian Sutton talk about when he's improvising over like a bluegrass fiddle tune, you put yourself in very confined spaces. Like you're in this very strict creative box where you're trying to like improvise around the barriers of the chord progression, trying to intersect the melody with new ideas. And some people might find that very constricting compared to like, more of a free improvisational approach like you get in jazz and other styles. But he finds it more enjoyable because fitting within those constraints becomes more rewarding, right? It's like you're taking what the song gives you and you're making something new with it. And I think the same is true with the mandolin in general.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I love bluegrass songs that are less than 3 minutes long because you have 30 seconds or 25 seconds in there as a soloist that you got to create something memorable and simple and melodic. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of this, whatever they call it, jamgrass stuff, just loses me because now you have 45 minutes to play something. And it's like nobody can play 45 minutes of mandolin and still sound good at the end. It's just too much. You know what I mean? So I like the limiting too of a specific solo or chorus that you have to kind of reinvent yourself each time. That's what I love about jazz too. And jazz can get a little bit out there, but I love that. Here's the song, here's the melody, these are the lyrics, now go with it. All right, you're done now, someone else comes along. I love that. Yeah,
it's crazy like how much someone can do with that little bit of time, that little amount of time. And it's night and day from player to player. Like, personality can shine through in such a short time like that. So yeah, I mean, you could spend a lifetime figuring out how to do that better and better and better. That's why we're here, right?
That's why we're here. So on the mandolin, as a player, what things do you struggle with aside from the obvious tuning the damn thing? What's the what are the, for you, like what do you still work on to try to keep or improve or keep your chops in shape or whatever?
Yeah. Oh man, that's a great question. You're calling me out, man. I've not been practicing that much. There's lots of things I should be practicing though. No, I may mention before we recorded here that we just became parents, me and Tabitha, for the first time about a year and a half ago. And ever since our little Joanna came around, it's been a lot less music, but also a lot more life and joy and all sorts of things. We're so thankful. But yeah, when I do have time to work on something, it's usually trying to like put out fires for whatever's coming up, like whether it's a gig or recording session or our video that I'm working on. That's what I love too, is like if I'm making a video, of something that I want to get better at. It's kind of this intersection of a lot of my different interests. My interest in wanting to, create something for the YouTube channel, to use my video editing skills to make something really visually and intellectually engaging, but also something that I can work on too. Like I did a video at IBMA a couple of years ago where I went around and asked all these amazing mandolin players at the convention what's like one bluegrass kickoff that they think every mandolin player should know. And that was really good because that's something I've really lacked in knowledge on for many years. And so I got 30 different suggestions from 30 different players. And the real challenge was when I got home, I had to go learn all those breaks and record them for the video. So, man, I did it all in a day too, which was like, I wish I'd been able to spend like a week or a month doing it. But it was just a huge level up in my knowledge about bluegrass kickoffs. That's usually what I'm working on is something adjacent to the many projects that we have going on. But if I had just like couple hours to practice without that expectation, I'd love to work more on my speed and my tone and my volume and just my fretboard knowledge, being able to play like scales and arpeggios up and down the neck better. Those are the things I usually gravitate to when I have just free practice time, so to speak.
I saw that thing you did with all those players. That was fantastic.
Thanks, man.
Just unbelievable because they all are so different and had such different, but they came right out with this. This is what I do. This is what you should learn. It was no hesitation. It was really, really cool. I thought it was great. Yeah,
it was so. I mean, there's loads of other players I wish I had gotten to that week as well. I was hoping to do like 40, but I just said, I'm glad I stopped at 30 in some ways because it took a long time. Yeah, trying to figure all those out as close to the original as possible too. Trying to learn a lot of those kickoffs from like Tim O'Brien and Adam Steffi and Vernon Derrick and all these folks, just note for note. It was a huge education for me.
Yeah. So you mentioned before that you, I guess, learned to love the key of D first. Is that,
yeah.
Is that still your favorite key?
I might be, honestly.
If you had to pick a key to just play in, would you pick D on mandolin?
I probably would, man. That's something I've not really put to words, but it was the first key that I kind of fell in love with, and it still is. Like a lot of the songs on this new Foreign Landers project are in D. Also because it suits Tabitha's singing range and my range too. I have kind of like a lower singer, so I don't really get into those high lonesome keys like Bill Monroe did. And it just feels so intuitive on the mandolin because you have those open D and A strings in the mid range that are just so easy to play melodies on. A lot of my favorite tunes are in the key of D. Like I love, The Gray Owl. I love, St. Anne's Reel is one of my favorites growing up. All those D major fiddle tunes, they just feel so comfortable and so natural. And usually they're not played quite as fast, which I really like too. They're not like blazing speeds. It doesn't sound good to play St. Anne's Reel too fast. So I still play a lot in that key. But I try to, push myself too to play in other keys as well. Like, I was just doing a track with some friends in North Carolina and they asked me to play in the key of A flat. And I was like, oh man, you gotta be kidding me. And so I was tempted to put the capo on the first fret and just, hack it. But no, I kind of just stuck to my guns and tried to play in closed position and all that in A flat. That was a huge thing for me. And when I was in college, I was taking lessons from Matt Flinner. And even in college, man, I was so inexperienced. I mean, that's kind of one of the reasons it was good for me to go to college, because it was just this space where I could just practice all day and really kind of catch up to a lot of players who had been playing their whole life. And Matt Flinner, my teacher, was showing me how to play all 12 keys, like around the circle of fourths, which maybe seems like kind of a basic thing for some players who've been playing a long time. But for me, it was such a revelation. And realizing like, wow, I'm as a mandolin player expected to be able to play in all 12 keys. And I feel like that was a huge thing for me, because playing in closed position just gave me so much more finger strength and confidence to be able to play better in the keys I was familiar with, like D and G. It just makes it feel more like you're playing music instead of playing like the key of D. You start to see those patterns translate from one key to the next, and the fretboard opens up in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting taking it up as an older person, because I'm not obviously going to master playing closed position in 12 keys. I don't care. I'm not ever going to get to the point where I do that. So I'm like to trying to pick out in certain keys which notes and chords. That's why I liked Lauren Price Napier's thing about Monroe, because she was pick out the three notes in the chord, and you got a whole solo right there with double stops and tremolos, and that was an eye opener to hear her talk about that. Really, to me, just because as a learning player still, the solo is like, okay, there's a lot of little frets on this thing. Where's it going to sound good? And your approach, learning all the closed positions up and down the neck, is the right way to do it, because then whether it's A flat or whatever, you can just move up and down and in theory do it. But I'm not going to go there.
Oh man. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like what Lauren was talking about, that's, I mean, also I think adjacent to what I was saying too. It's just like finding the shapes that you can use and move up and down the fretboard. And thankfully with the symmetry of the strings, it really does make a lot of sense. And I think like, I'm still figuring out there's more and more shapes that you can add to your tool belt, more ways of connecting those shapes and getting around the fretboard, that I'm still learning as well. Maybe you've had him on the podcast. Have you talked to Jacob Jolliffe before?
I've seen him. No, I haven't had him on the podcast yet.
Oh my goodness.
He's on my list.
He'd be my recommendation for talking about this kind of stuff. I've taken a few lessons from him, and the way he knows the fretboard up and down is just unfathomable. I think he practices all day long and just loves it. So I'm envious of his dedication and hope to reach that level at some point, maybe when I'm in my 90s or something like that.
So I know when guitar players get together, they mostly talk about guitar picks. I mean, it's usually that's the main topic. There's a little bit about strings and this and that, but it's all, what pick you're using, how thick is it? Is it blue chip? Is it this and that? Yeah. So what do mandolin players talk about when you get together? Same kind of stuff, or do you have specific?
Oh yeah, totally. I did another video a couple of years ago about Lloyd Lohr mandolins, which was such a fun project. And I was teaching at the Swannanoa Gathering in North Carolina at the time. And between like the other teaching staff there and a couple students and visiting friends, we were able to like scrounge together 5 Lloyd Lohr mandolins. And for folks who don't know out there, they're like the ones made in the 1920s by that famous luthier, Lloyd Allier Lohr, who was at the Gibson factory at the time. At least they were signed by him. They're made by a big team of luthiers, but they're the Stradivarius of the mandolin world, and they're worth like, anywhere between, $150,000 these days. It's crazy. But yeah, it was like Mike Marshall's mandolin. John Reichman had his Lohr there, Alan Bybee, and a couple other friends. And it was so fun. I got to like film it and kind of just be a fly on the wall while these great mandolin players were kind of talking about all sorts of stuff. And man, it gets so nerdy. It is hilarious. I had to edit out maybe like 3/4 of, the whole conversation just to kind of make it a concise, interesting video. But yeah, we're talking about pick sizes, pick materials, talking about strings, but even talking about like crazy things about like, John was talking about how the top of his Lohr isn't matched booked the same as other top pieces of wood that are used for Lohr's, and how like the grain is different on the bass side than it is on the treble side. And that's the secret to his mandolin sounding the way that it does. It's like, it almost feels like you're talking about like magic or voodoo or something like that. And I feel like very out of my element in that world. I don't know a whole lot about the technical side of mandolin lutherie, but some people just get so into it, and I've really benefited from talking to experts like all those folks. I did a big interview with Tony Williamson too, who's like one of the main foremost experts on Lohr's these days, and we chatted for like almost 2 hours, and I got like all of it on film, and it was such a huge education for me getting to talk about all that. But yeah, I love talking about picks, man. What pick are you using these days?
I tried to get a Wiegand pick, but apparently they're not available anywhere in this country right now.
Oh wow!
I checked with 3 different sellers of picks, and they all said no, we cannot get them. So
that's such a bummer, man.
I don't know. I'm using one similar to that. It's got little holes in it. It's triangular, kind of big. I always played mandolin with a Dunlop thin guitar pick because that's what I was used to, and I liked it. But this is a little more substantial, and I don't know. I feel like, I was talking to Kristen Scott Benson, the banjo player,
Yeah.
and she said I assumed that banjo players were the nerdiest because there's so many freaking parts in a banjo that you can change and modify and have and not have, but I guess mandolin players are just as nerdy as banjo players.
Just as bad.
When you get right down to it, there's so many things you can discuss
Oh,
that
totally,
that seem important.
Man, when I first
Um,
started playing, I could barely hold a pick between my thumb and my finger. I actually had to use, I think they were called Herco thumb picks. I don't know if you've ever played. They're mostly for guitar, I imagine, but they're like a
yeah.
teardrop shape with the thumb loop, kind of like you would get for finger style or for not really like a banjo pick. But they were so thin and they would break like every couple of weeks. I had like a huge pile of them at home just because I couldn't keep a pick between my fingers. But yeah, I mean, you look at Sam Bush, he's using like, I think he's still using Fender heavies, isn't that right? And he uses kind of like the sloped shoulder side and is able to get that wonderful tone. I heard Casey Campbell say that the Sam Bush tone is the sound of a wet sock hitting the side of a garbage can. And I love that. It's like thwack, it makes,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
this visceral, sound. It's just like my favorite mandolin chop out there.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like it's probably more about the hands using the pick, but I know I love nerding out about that stuff. In fact, like a couple years ago, I got to make kind of a custom signature pick with tone slabs, which was a really fun project. Like I always thought it'd be fun to make kind of a customized pick that suited my needs and my preferences. And David Welsh and Frank Sullivan over at Tone Slabs were super kind to kind of go back and forth. I think we did like 3 different rounds of prototypes and each iteration kind of dialing in a bit more. And I ended up it's a similar pick between like those Wiegand TF 140s with the holes in the middle. I really like the holes and how it like kind of changes the sound of the pick against the strings. It feels like there's less mass and less of a pick click and makes it a little bit different in your fingers there. But it's made out of like that their dark material. I think they call it Darth tone material, and it's kind of more similar to maybe a blue chip pick in some ways, and the actual feel of the pick as opposed to that textured Wiegand. And then also like the sides are kind of like sloped ever so slightly, kind of more of a neutral bevel, much like those Golden Gate extra stiff triangle picks, which I think are great picks too. They're only like a couple bucks a piece, but I really love the tone. They just don't really last as long as I would like. So that's what I'm playing these days, man. It's been really fun playing those tone slabs.
Just saying, yeah. You play a lot of instruments, different ones. What are good mid-range mandolins that you like?
Man, that is a great question. I've been trying to figure that out, honestly. Like that was one of the biggest questions I got when I started doing more YouTube videos. Like, what is a beginner mandolin? Because I started out with like a really cheap Alvarez mandolin. It was the only one that the local music store had, and I didn't really have much experience with other beginner mandolins. So I figured maybe I should just buy them all and try them side by side for folks and see what they think. So I did that. I bought like 7 different mandolins between, I think it was like the lowest was about $100 and the top one was around 600. And maybe no surprise, like the more expensive ones definitely sounded better, but not the most expensive one. I really love the Kentucky mandolins. If there's anyone out there looking for a really good entry level mandolin that could last for several years, I think that's a great option. The KM 150. But as far as like the next step, that's been the next big question that everyone's been asking me, like, what's that intermediate level mandolin? And that is still a big hole in the market, I feel. There are some folks out there making mandolins kind of in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. That's the bare minimum for like that second tier. Like the Ratliff mandolins are really great affordable options. That's just handmade by one luthier. And then also I've been really impressed with the Buas mandolins over in Poland.
Yes.
Tabitha actually plays a couple Buas banjos. They make banjos as well. And it's a father-son team with a couple other employees just building instruments by hand in the same workshop. But they've been doing some really cool stuff with the mandolins. In fact, I had like a model here at the studio that I was able to spend a few weeks with and review for a video. And I think they're one of the best value for the price. They're a little bit more expensive. I think they range, like an A model is between like maybe $3,500, and then their F models are kind of like around $5,500 to $6,000. Which is still like, I know people have wildly different opinions about what is affordable in the mandolin world. For me, that seems affordable because like if you look at the big brands outside of that in the mandolin world, you're going to spend probably like twice as much for the same quality of the mandolin. Like even some of the, they're great mandolins, but even some like the Northfields are calling some of the bigger mass produced mandolins, not mass produced, but produced on a larger scale. They're going to cost a bit more than something that's, made by someone like Ratliff or Buas for the same quality mandolin. But yeah, I wish there were more builders. I mean, obviously it's understandable. It's a crazy complicated instrument to make well. And there's just not much demand for it like there is for like the ukulele market or for the guitar market. So I don't know if we'll ever get to that point where you can buy like an awesome mandolin for $500 that'll last you forever. I feel like you can do that in some guitar scenes. Like you can buy like a $500 guitar and be happy with it for a long time. We actually just bought a Recording King guitar recently, and it's awesome. It sounds so good. It's like it's our second guitar on stage now because we do some songs with different tunings. So that's been great having kind of a stunt double guitar to rely on. But yeah, not so much for the mandolins, I'm sad to say.
Yeah, that recording, when I couldn't play guitar, I had a shoulder replacement, and I bought a Recording King mandolin, which I still have. It was like $130, and it was pretty good. I mean, it stayed in tune. It was easy to tune. It's a little brash sounding, like a little bright. But I guess you can get different strings and picks. I don't know. But I think for most players, I mean, you start off with an inexpensive mandolin. Either you love it or you don't. If you love it, you're going to go for more. You're not going to get an Ellis or a Gilchrist. The average jammer player is not going to spend $20,000 on a mandolin.
Yeah.
Right. So in that $3,000 to $6,000 range is probably where most, mandolin players that I know of would go, but they're not going to spend twice or three times that because it's just not, you're not a professional. You're just doing it for fun, and it's just. Plus, you probably have a wife who's looking at you saying, "Honey, how much was that mandolin?" Whatever.
Yeah, I know it's true. It's like diminishing returns for like increased investment. Obviously, I feel like a Gilchrist is worth however much they're going for now. They're incredible, and Steve is like one of the premier luthiers of our time. But yeah, it's like for your average player, I feel like I don't even deserve a Gilchrist. It's like it's. Finding what mandolin's going to suit you best within your price range.
Oh, yeah. Do you feel that the audience for now you call yourself not really a bluegrass player because you play all kinds of music, but I'm into bluegrass because I do the concerts and the jams, blah, blah, blah. So do you feel like the audience for bluegrass is changing over time? I do from, it's primarily an older audience that I see at jams and concerts over 60. I hate to say it. Most of the audience is. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like the audience is becoming younger? I'm hoping it is because you can't count on an old audience forever.
Yeah.
You see see any changes there?
I think so. Yeah, it's interesting. I would talk to Banjo Ben, another favorite YouTube creator doing bluegrass stuff. He's a great mandolin player too, and I was chatting with him about the "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" era of bluegrass and how it really just changed Nashville overnight. Man of Constant Sorrow, #1 hit, and everyone started to wanted to create similar sounds, and just as this huge bluegrass revival. And he was kind of pointing to very similar signs here now after like kind of the Billy Strings, crazy blow up here, and still doing like amazing things. It's just been kind of a revival of sorts for bluegrass, and especially in younger crowds. And I don't know, like I don't probably get out and experience all that music in person as much as other folks do, but I definitely can see like a rise in younger players, even just from the metrics over on my YouTube channel. Like there is a big demographic, probably the largest demographic still is, folks 60 or older watching my videos, which makes sense. Like mandolin is definitely kind of more of it's a boutique instrument. Some of these instruments cost like $20,000-$30,000, and you need a lot of money to approach even having an instrument like that to play. But there is a big rise in, I kind of like the 20 to 30 age as well. I think that's the second biggest demographic in my videos, which is exciting. It's like, that's really cool. And I think that is largely due to Billy Strings' influence. And it's cool. It's like, I don't think it's just people doing jam grass too. Nothing against jam grass. It's just like, I think it's maybe a great entryway for people to discover other things as well. Just like Nickel Creek was an entryway for me to learn about the mandolin, learn about bluegrass, and eventually come around to loving Bill Monroe too. I think he's just opening up people's eyes and ears to bluegrass in all forms, which is really exciting.
Wow. I mean, I think at heart, Billy Strings is like a young Doc Watson almost. He loves that traditional stuff.
Yeah.
Even with all those pedal boards and all this crazy light shows and stuff and 20,000 people out there, he's still playing a lot of really traditional bluegrass.
Oh yeah, totally. It's cool. Like every set list, I see there's like these classic bluegrass songs from all sorts of artists, and even I get to, I sat down and watched that Tiny Desk concerts that they did a few months back, and if y'all haven't watched that, it is phenomenal. It's so good. It's really cool to hear them play on mics like that too at a small space, because it is a different vibe than plugging in with all the pedal boards and everything. And they are such talented players. Like Alex Hargraves might be the best fiddle player in the world. It's hard to say, but it's like unreal musicianship from everyone in that band. I love Jared Walker's playing too. In fact, like I've spent a lot of time like working with his music. I took his place in a band with Missy Raines back in the day when I was living in Nashville, and that was a huge education for me, which is learning all of his parts for the songs that he did with her. And it's really exciting that he's had so much success with Billy.
Yeah. I had forgotten that you were in Missy's band for a while before Mile 12. I just remember seeing Mile 12. I think it was in Milford, Connecticut, before you joined the band. I think it was just a quartet at the time. The band was good, but it just didn't have that pizzazz. And as soon as you joined the band, and did you join at the same time as Bronwyn, or was that you separately? How did that work out? Because after you joined the band, I remember seeing a video of you on YouTube with you playing when you had just joined. It's like, oh, that's the energy they were looking for. No, I mean,
Yeah.
it really made a difference to that band.
Man. I'm so thankful they asked me to come up to Boston and join. I was at the time I was playing with Missy, and I was really starting to enjoy living in Nashville. It took me a while because I was living in this awful apartment. Like, my opposite my window was a dumpster for like a restaurant that was 10 feet away from our apartment building, and my roommate's ceiling caved in on him one night because the neighbors upstairs had left the sink on and it overflowed and all this stuff. It was terrible, but I was paying $200 a month on rent and no utilities, so we got what we were paying for. But yeah, I'd finally kind of like come to appreciate all of that and was loving playing with Missy. And it was a hard choice, like deciding to move up to Boston to join Mile 12. In fact, like I was on the fence, and I ended up calling Matt Flinner, who was kind of like a mentor of mine. He, was my teacher for a long time and produced some records for me. And I was like, man, he was up in Vermont, living in Vermont at the time. And, he was, had bad cell reception. So I asked him this big question: what do you think I should do? Do you think I should move up to Boston to join this band of young musicians? And I was really conflicted about it. And right as he was about to answer, he said, I think like the reception just cuts out. And I was like, oh no, I can't not know what he's about to say. And so I like tried calling back so many times. And then eventually, like a few minutes later, he calls me back from the roof of his house so he could get enough cell reception, saying like, dude, I think you should go for it. And like, how often does it come around an opportunity like this to join a fully, democratic creative band of like-minded musicians where you get to have say over the creative direction of a project like that and get to tour. And I'm so thankful that I did, and I still am. I miss those guys a lot. They're all still really good friends. We chat and catch up every once in a while too, which I'm thankful for. But yeah, it was such a huge education for me, like getting to play along with them. I think it was like inspiring for all of us to be together too, to feel like, we're a full 5-piece bluegrass band now, and we can, we can do what we want to do and play bluegrass the way that it hopefully should sound. Yeah, it was a blast.
I was going to mention a few names and just get your reaction. One of them is Nate Sabat, he plays here all the time. I don't know, with various bands. He's slept at my house, I think, like 7 times over the years. I just saw him recently. I know you still play with Nate, right? With your trio?
Yes.
Or quartet with your
wife? Often as we can. Yeah. Like for any big runs or for big shows we're doing, we fly him down from New York to play with us. And he recorded on this most recent record of ours too. I love Nate so much. He's like a brother, because we've spent so much time together on the road. I think I've slept at your house same time that Nate has as well. And
Probably.
we've done, we toured together with Mile 12 for about like 4 or 5 years before I left the band, and just had so many crazy experiences together, like going to Japan, going to like New Zealand and Australia and Europe and Canada and all over the States. And you just get to know someone so well when you spend that much time together in a car and on planes. And what I love about Nate too is that he's so changeable. Like, he is just always in the moment, as a musician and as a person too. He's always got these like newfangled ideas and like rules that he wants to follow for in his life and for exercise and diet and all this stuff. It's like he's just always on to new stuff, which is really inspiring to be around.
That sounds like he just played a solo concert here, a house concert.
Cool.
Just him and his bass and singing his songs. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
The guy can do it all.
So
He's
talented.
really a talented singer and songwriter. Yeah. Is there anybody in the history of music that you would have liked to sit down and jam with that you never got a chance to?
Man, yeah. Oh, totally. I mean, you mentioned Tony Rice a few times. I only got to see him play live once, and that was after he'd stopped singing, unfortunately. But even since then, I've just come to appreciate his recorded music so much, and would have loved to have jammed with him in particular. Just the way that he kind of comes under the people he's playing with and lifts them up to a whole new level. You can really tell that in every recording that he's made, but especially those ones. I love those records he made with Bela Fleck, Drive and Tales from the Acoustic Planet Volume 2, the Bluegrass Sessions. Those two are some of my favorite playing of his, and all that whole band, man. Those are my heroes: Sam Bush and Stuart Duncan and Bela Fleck and Mark Schatz. All these folks, they're incredible.
Yeah. I've had a few. I've had two main interests in this podcast, a lot of interests, but one was talking to people that played with Tony, and one was talking to people that played with Bill Monroe. So I've talked to quite a few of Tony's bandmates, getting the stories, behind the scenes kind of stuff. And same with Monroe. I just was talking. I said I was talking to Gene Lowinger, and he said, when we played it with Monroe in the '60s, he would pull these little tricks, like he would name a song we're going to play, but let's not do it in A. Let's do it in B flat tonight. Whoa. And everybody would look at him like, why, Bill? he was just like trying to, get people off guard. Or he would call it a song that he used to do with his brother Charlie like 35 years ago, and that nobody knew. And 1, 2, and off they would walk. I said, that was just his little game, I guess, of challenging his musicians. It was fun to hear these little stories because I guess he had quite a sense of humor, despite all the, he seems like a very stern kind of guy, but I guess they had a lot of fun too.
Oh yeah, what an interesting character. I read that Can't You Hear Me Calling book, that biography of his, and if anyone hasn't read that, I think it's a great resource.
Yeah, I read it too recently, and I've been loaning it out to my students because it is so interesting. Mm-hmm. What about Bronwyn Keith Hines? I should ask you about her too.
Yeah.
Did you and she leave Mile 12 at the same time? Kind of.
We did. Yes. Yeah. It just kind of coincided. Like I was thinking about leaving for a little while just because, after all that crazy stuff, immigrating here to the States with Tabitha after our marriage, it was just like, it was hard to be away from home. Like when we were over in Northern Ireland, it was the first time Tabitha and I had slept together in the same bed for, I guess, longer than a week since we'd met each other. It's crazy. It was just the only time we'd had like an extended period of time together, and we just loved it so much. It was hard to be away from each other after that. So that was kind of my main reason for leaving the band, just because I wanted to spend more time with Tabitha. But at the same time, Bronwyn had just kind of gotten this offer to start playing with Molly Tuttle, and it made sense for her, I think, to take the opportunity. And I don't know if any of us really foresaw how Molly Tuttle would have just popped off as well and become like this incredible voice and influence in bluegrass. I mean, we should have known if we didn't know, because she's incredible.
Yeah.
And it was just a fantastic opportunity for Bronwyn, and it's been really exciting to see her just really take off too with her own music as well. I got to see her play at the Earl Scruggs Festival near us in North Carolina last year with her band. She's got some incredible players like Tristan Scroggins playing mandolin with her, and Frank Evans, one of our favorite voices in bluegrass and favorite banjo players as well. So yeah, so excited for her. We actually got to go to her wedding, her and Jason Carter's wedding at the Opry, which was amazing. It was like I'd never been to a wedding at the I'd never even really been to the Opry before, to be honest, and it was incredible to get to experience it. They had like, Brian Sutton and Michael Cleveland playing the prelude music on stage, and then yeah, like so cool to be there for their special day because Jason is also just an incredible human being, and so happy for them.
She was actually my first podcast interview.
Oh,
And
cool.
and I remember she was in her, it was before she had married Jason, and she was worried about the she had to do some online lessons the next day, and she was worried about her connection and everything, and we were like trying to figure it out. So we had to do it all with the video, and she it was just really, it was my first time, so I was kind of like didn't know what I was doing, and she was like, "Is it working? Am I coming? How's it?" Stuff. And then I talked to her again after she and Jason got married, and she had played with Molly a little bit, so just to catch up. But yeah, I always thought she was kind of an undiscovered gem with Mile 12. She was kind of in the background. She was quiet, great fiddle, but she didn't really sing much, and she was, I don't know.
Yeah.
And now she's
Yeah, such
blossomed.
such a hard worker too. I like that was one of my main impressions of her and BB too, playing in Mile 12. Like both of them were just always off practicing somewhere, before the gig or even after the gig. Like sometimes we would get into these crazy competitions to see if we could get like a lot amount of practice time throughout, the each day on tour, even if it was like a crazy travel schedule. I remember like being pressured to wake up one day at like 3 a.m. to get 2 hours of practice in before we had to leave for a flight somewhere. And I was like practicing in the hotel bathroom and, like ended up waking up some neighbors, unfortunately, and getting kicked out. And I think Bronwyn went to like the McDonald's bathroom or something like that. And I was like crazy stuff like that. They're just like, yeah, going the extra mile to get the practice hours in, and really paid off too. She's an incredible player as well as BB. I'm sure you know. Yeah.
I remember BB would change her strings for every show.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
I was shocked. 'Cause I said, why would a banjo need to change its? I mean, I can see a guitar player doing it but banjo is so dominant and loud. But she's Noah, and I remember her at Best Video where you guys played,
Yeah.
taking the strings off, one and changing every
Yep.
single one. I said, okay, that's your thing. Yep, that was her
Yeah.
obsession,
So
making it sound as
dedicated.
good as possible.
Absolutely.
Um, so in winding down here, is there anything that people would be surprised to know about you that they don't? It's kind of an odd, hard question, but
Oh.
I just like to kind of pry a little bit. Like, is there anything quirky or unusual about your hobbies or interests that nobody would suspect, or do you not want to go there?
Oh yeah, totally. Well, there's lots of stuff I'm sure. The one that comes to mind is that I know how to ride the unicycle. I don't know if that's like quirky, but it was something that me and my cousin decided to do when we were in high school, and as well as a local friend, we all just decided to learn how to ride the unicycle. And it's funny enough, like I found out later on that Matt Flinner is also a unicyclist, so maybe there's some common thread between unicycle and
Interesting.
mandolin. They're both niche interests, I guess.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah. Just talk a little bit about your YouTube channel for people who don't know it or haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of your stuff on there, and it's all just really, really good and interesting and informative and musical. Can you just like tell a little bit about what your channel is and how to find it
yeah,
and how to for people?
totally. Yeah, it's just it's my name, David Benedict, and then mandolin, and yeah, I've you can find all my stuff on YouTube. That's kind of my main focus these days, but I've got other stuff on Instagram and Facebook and even TikTok. trying to keep trying to keep up with the brain rot, so to speak, I guess.
Uh,
But yeah, YouTube's kind of my main focus. I feel I like putting out the longer form content.
yeah. Well, I highly recommend you check out David Benedict's YouTube, his website, his music, his duo trio with his wife Tabitha. Go back and listen to the old Mile 12 stuff. This is great music throughout your life, and I really want to thank you for coming on. This is a great chat, and geez, I hope to see you sometime up here in Connecticut again. That would
Yeah,
be
I would
fun.
love to, Chris. Yeah, thank you so much, man. It's been great catching up here.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again.
I hope you enjoyed our podcast, and thanks for listening. Visit our website, guitartownct.com, for concert and podcast schedules, or just to send us a message. We'd love to hear from you.